Alright guys, this is part number 3 of the B74 build. We are now on bag 4. Bag 4 is looking like we're going to bolt the front and rear diff in and the dog bones by the looks of it. Thanks for continuing to watch the series. So they give us a little bit of grease here. Some shims, screws. Looks like we've made it to the bearings. This step does have a couple things we're gonna have to reference the sheet on. That's where those small washers came in. We're gonna go ahead and open the stuff up, lay it out as usual. So they give you these nice blue caps for the drive shafts. Always like blue parts. Thanks associated. Love the bling. We got cylinders mixed in with our screws there, some set screws, some pin, and our screws. Go ahead and take these off the tree. I'll leave these on here as I'm not sure. There's a few different sizes there, so we'll keep those there. Alright, so our first step looking like we gotta put the pinion gears into the case. We do need a couple bearings. We're not gonna use all these bearings in this step. Associated put them all in one bag. So I'm gonna keep those over here. There's a couple sizes. This is where that reference chart comes in handy if you're not unsure. But they're fairly significant difference in size here, so you'll probably be able to tell. Alright, we got our bearings. So we got 10 by 15s, looks like maybe 5 by 10s, 3 by 7, or these 6 by 12s, not sure. Looks like it's calling for the 5 by 10s. So these guys, pretty common size. I usually put them with the rubber pointing out. One goes in there, like so. Then we got the pinion slides in. Oh, pull bearing out the other side, that's right, just put it back on. We got our pinion sitting in the housing. I don't know if it wants us to, okay, it says build 2 right there, so we're gonna build at the same time here. The same thing, bearing, should go in fairly easy. And slide the pinion in. All spins nicely. We got our 2 housings, and then it says we gotta bolt the bottom piece on here. I don't have a speed tip for my drill for the 1.5. Well, I have one, but not with me right now. But these ones are pretty easy to drive. Cover snaps in. Put a little pressure on and get it started because we are tapping these as we're screwing them in. You're gonna feel some resistance. Snug that up. It's ×2. Looks like this piece kind of has a recess that it snaps into. Nice. All right, so we got those covers on. diffs. Now it's telling us to put the differentials in. So we got a couple shims on either side here. These just help set the mesh between the ring and the pinion. They're calling for one on each side. And then we have 10 by 15 on either side. Like so. Shim, shim, bearing, bearing. That is, I believe, ×2. Yeah. Shim, shim, bearing, bearing. There we go. Now it's telling us to slide it in. Like so. Alright, so we got the diffs in. It's calling for the grease. I'm going to use the sticky grease. It does give you some though, so that's fine. Use that if you have it. It's just regular black grease, it looks like. I like this stuff in a little tube. Just going to give this a nice bit of grease. Just run it right along the gear. Helps save the gear for a while. Does look like a pretty beefy gear though. Go around it a couple times. It's not much coming out of it, but you give it a spin. Should be nice and smooth. Feels pretty good. Grease it to your liking. There's one. Do the other one here. I like to go all the way around the gear. Like so. Give it a spin nicely. Alright, so our diffs are in there. Feel pretty good. Everything's spinning smoothly. The next step. Okay, bag 4, step 2 is where they gave us a card here. I believe what all they're telling me is to put that shim in there before that we saw in part 2. So just go ahead and do that for the spacing. We're gonna throw these drive shafts together. Looks like it wants us to build the short 64mm first. Gonna need my grease again. So we have to put the cylinder in. Put a little bit of grease on this guy. A little grease on the cylinder. Cylinder slides in. There's a hole in the cylinder that's gonna line up with these grooves. Straight up and down. Okay. And then we have the coupler here. We're gonna line up the hole in the cylinder with the slot in the dog bone, and then the hole in the coupler. Actually, before I do that, I like to put a little grease in the coupler here. Basically, if you don't grease them, they're just gonna wear out a little faster, and you probably get a good squeaking noise out of them. Line them all up. Pin slides in, should go through the coupler, through the cylinder, and then back out the other side. Should be able to spin it around. And then, looks like we're gonna slide the blue piece over. Looks like the blue piece lines up with the hole for a set screw. So I'm gonna set that there aside. Set one of these aside for now. And take this one. So let's throw the cover on it here. Should fit together nicely. Don't force anything. And we got two 3x12s going in the front here. Don't over tighten anything. If you are using a drill, recommend setting a clutch or just be light on the trigger. Alright, there's two there. And it looks like we got one on the bottom. Alright. And just give it a spin. Make sure nothing's binding up. Make sure nothing's wiggling around like crazy. Mine spins pretty free. Nice. I'm going to go ahead and do that with the second one as well while we have it here. That. Two on the top. One on the bottom. Like so. Again, spin it, make sure we didn't do anything wrong. Feels pretty tight, pretty smooth. Might be a little noise. It's okay, it's brand new. Okay, so then I'm gonna go ahead and throw together the longer shaft. This is the 95. Goes together the same way. Put a little grease on the cylinder here. Line it up with the slot, give it a twist, spread some of the grease around. And we got our coupler, put a little grease in that guy. And slide it in, line up all the holes. Put our pin in. Line them up, you guys gotta wiggle it around a bit to line them up. Just keep pressure on the pin and wiggle the joint around and then go in. And we got our blue cover. Slide that on. Now let's gotta put that shim, that was that addendum here. We gotta put that shim on first. The shim goes on the pinion gear, like so. Just space out a hair. And we slide on. Pinions have looks like a little round divot cut out of them. That's where you're gonna line this hole up with a divot in the pin. And then put your set screw in. Again, I'm gonna do this one set screws by hand. They're going into metal. There's a ball in. Just gonna use a straight one for this. A little Loctite. Again, don't have to go too crazy. Just don't want them to vibrate out the first time we drive it. Line up the holes with the divot in the shaft. Got a good, snug it up good. And there you have it. I like the coupler they give you there, the cover. Gives a little extra. Now we're gonna do this side. Line them up. Snug it up. Again, you're threading into metal, so it should go in quite easy. You shouldn't have to force anything. If it's getting really hard to turn, chances are you're stripping it out, so just stop. All right, so we're going on to bag number 5 we're gonna do in this part as well. So I'm gonna get bag number 5, step 1. All Alright, so we got bag number 5. Looks like we're going to be mounting the diffs in the car. I'll go ahead and lay out the parts for you. A couple aluminum pieces here. Some carbon pieces. Wing mount. Another couple screw bag here. Got 2 screw bags of this one. Alright. We got some nice aluminum and carbon pieces going in on this one. First step, we got the aluminum pieces. There are 2 different pieces here. Be mindful of that. I'd assume there's a front and a rear here. It looks like the first step's calling for this one here. It looks like it's a little bit shorter. And then we need those inserts that we pulled out and left on the tree. Now this is going to adjust the height of the differential. Again, this is going to be another setup point. But for the build, I'm just doing it to the box. It looks like it wants to use a 0, which is 2 dots facing upward. I'm going to take 2 of those off. This one got a little tail on it. Clean that off. So this has got 2 little dots on it. You guys can see. And then looks like it's going to push into this portion of the aluminum piece, like so. And it has us using a 3x12 countersunk screw. I'll go ahead and separate out my screws here a little bit. Alright, separated my screws up a bit. Looks like this side calls for the 1 countersunk 3x12, which is this guy. And we're going to thread it into our, looks like it's going to be the front diff, which is the shorter dog bone. I'll line up with the top hole. Okay, so then we got the 3x10s. Again, don't forget about this, guys. If you're just tuning in now, the screw chart, if you can see that in the video, it's like, oh, is this a 3x10? Not sure. Check it out over here. Nope, that's a 12. This a 10? Yep, these are 10s. So if you guys are having trouble with that, check out the chart. One there. One there. So we got 1, 2, 3. Insert 2 dots up. Okay. So we got to get another 2 dot insert. Oh, I already had 2, didn't I? Oh, there it is. Our 2 dot insert. Dots facing up. It goes on this side. Ooh. Then we had the 3x12 screw. So And then we had the 3x10 button heads in the other two locations. Like so. You got this. Now we're going to go to step 2. So I'm going to set that aside for a second. It's going to be the front shock tower. The front shock mounts, they all look the same. Need 2 of those. And then it's calling for 3x22. It'll be these long ones. And a couple M3 nuts. And a couple 8mm ball studs, which they all look the same length. So step 2 is going to consist of these parts. I'm going to put the shock position is going to go in the middle hole to start. Again, this is another tuning option, whether which hole you want to run it in. They're calling for a bit of Loctite on these. I personally don't care for Loctiting these shock posts because I can move them around often enough. So that being said, if you do or if you don't Loctite them, keep an eye on them so they don't vibrate and loosen up on you. You should always check the car over a good couple times those first few runs. Any parts I'm going to be taking on and off frequently, I try not to Loctite them. Just keep an eye on them. We got those 2. We'll snug those up after when we put the other bolts on. We got the 2 shock posts, ball studs going in middle hole. And it's opposite direction of the shock posts. Those have a nut on that side. Just gonna finger tighten those. And then I'll tighten them both at the same time with the driver. It's a 5.5 driver. And the head of these ball studs have a 2mm socket. So you can tighten them down, snug them up. Like so. So that's completed step 2, the ball studs and the shock mounts. Now it has us bolting them up to the aluminum posts. It does say to throw a bit of Loctite on these. I'll go ahead and put a little on that because it's something I shouldn't be taking apart too often unless I hit something. And here's my 2mm. And these are 3x8s. Be the shorter guys here. Just gonna put a hair of Loctite on these. Sometimes it's enough just to take a little bit off the rim of the cap there. Remember, you don't have to go crazy, otherwise if you strip a screw or something, no having to cut it out, you're gonna have a fun time with the Loctite. Again, I'm not cranking these all down until I get them in, because sometimes if you tighten the first one down real tight, it makes it hard to thread the other ones in. So, let's get them started. The Loctite doesn't dry very fast, so don't sweat that. Again, if you don't use Loctite, make sure you check the car. Or you should check the car the first few times you drive it anyway. So those are the 4 bolts that hold the front tower to the diff. Tighten those down. 4 bolts and our shock tower mounted to our front diff. Set that aside. Step 4. Step 4 has us doing the rear. It's my mistake in the beginning. I just didn't notice that I had both on in that picture. So we're gonna go ahead and mount up the taller ones that go in the back. It wants us to use the same 2-dot up insert. So we got the 12 and 10s for this step. And go ahead and put the insert with the dots facing upward. And this is gonna go this way. This is the one with the longer shaft on it. Shaft going this way, pieces up. Get that lined up. Put that in there. Make sure you get to line it up with the other two holes there. Like so. One screw in the front. And the one in the back. Like so. And we're going to do the other side. The dots facing upward. Same, just mirroring the other side. I like to keep the part in the same orientation as the manual as I build it. Makes it easier so you don't build something backwards, which we all do, which I'm sure I'll do during this series. Gets me every time. Don't feel bad. Alright, so we got all three screws in that side, this side. Everything looks like it's going together quite well. We're now moving to step 5. Step 5 looks like the rear tower shock mounts, basically the same as what we just did with the front tower. The long screw, middle hole, shock mount. Or I said I'm going to tighten these up when I put the shocks on. So I'm just finger tightening them for now. I don't Loctite these. It does say to. If you do Loctite them, don't use much because you're probably going to take these off and move them around. So we got the two mounts. Ball stud goes opposite of the mount in the middle hole. 3mm nut. So, and then we're going to tighten those back down again. 2mm on this side, 5.5. Snug them up. Like so. So that's what we got there. Shock mounts and ball studs. Now this one, it is telling us to put the wing mount on as well. So it looks like it wants us just to use that middle screw for the moment, which is a 3x10. I'm gonna put the screw through the tower and get the shock tower started on there. Like so. Just wants us to use that screw for now. I assume we're going to put 2 more in it here, but that's it for now. And then it wants us to mount it on our tower. Going this direction. Okay, so those 2 screws are going to come in this way. So on the bottom of the tower, the bottom 2 holes, it wants us to use the 3x8s, and then on the top it wants us to use the 12s. There we go. Just get one started there. to tighten this one down too much, so it makes it hard to get that one in. I'm just going to back it out a little bit. So I was saying before, see, that I didn't even follow my own rule. Get this one lined up. And it goes in much easier when the other one's a little loose. Once you have two in, it lines it up a little better. The 12s. Go through the wing mount and into the tower. So that's what was holding the rest of our wing mount on there. Again, these should thread in pretty easy because they're going into aluminum. Snug these up like that. And we got our tower mounted onto our diff. There's our front and our rear. Okay guys, that was step 5. This is your completed front and rear differential assemblies with the shock towers, dog and the center dog bones or CVDs. That was I believe bag 4 and 5. The next bags will be sway bars and mounting them to the chassis. That'll gonna be in part 4. So stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching.